Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode If You Could Hide to Kolob podcast. My name is Daniel. This is my brother Clive.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. We're doing one section, but I tell you what, it's an incredible section. There's so much doctrine in this one section. It's exciting to look at this one today.
Absolutely. Clive, before this episode gets released, it would have been the 195th anniversary of the Book of Mormon being up for sale. So I thought I'd just share a little bit of information here. I'm just going to make sure I can give you some facts, give you a bit of knowledge about the Book of Mormon instead of just a normal quote today, unless you've got something prepared.
And no, go for it. Yeah, please.
So in 195 years, the church has printed 200 million copies of the Book of Mormon. 200 million copies of the Book of Mormon. Like, that is just a staggering number of books being printed, right? Just an unbelievable number.
Yeah, that's an incredible amount. I feel like when I was a missionary, we'd give them away willy-nilly. And you think about how it all started, and you think about how the massive expansion we have now. So that's an incredible number.
Clive, the Book of Mormon, I think it was, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure that the original book was sold for $1.75. And in today's money, that book is it can be $150, or depending on. I looked up earlier a few different conversions about how much $1.75 is in today's money, but it's definitely more than $100. It's not as much as $200, but it's somewhere between $100 and $170. That's a lot of money for that book. And I didn't realize, if in that perspective, just how expensive a book it was. I didn't actually know that at all. It would end up, the price would end up coming down on the Book of Mormon, and the church actually hardly sold any. They were given away as missionary tools, but of course they hoped. And now I'm thinking about it. I'm sure the first, I should have looked up this more. I didn't even think about talking about this for the quote until just before, but it was sold at a pharmacy, was the first place that the book was up for legitimate sale. So interesting history with the Book of Mormon. Well, 195 years, and 200 million copies printed in, I don't even know how many languages, loads. So what a ride that the Book of Mormon's had. And we're discussing its humble beginnings now to one of the most popular books ever.
I talk about how I used to give away Book of Mormons all the time. There was actually a guy at church only a couple of weeks ago. He's got to be in his 60s maybe, and he said when he was on his mission, they used to sell them as well. They weren't allowed to just give them out. So I guess
Really?
it's fairly, I mean, in our lifetime, I feel like it's always been free, but yeah, it hasn't been in a lot of people's lifetimes. So it's interesting, yeah.
I might have that as a little pet project this week. I didn't know that they were sold
Yeah,
in modern times.
strange, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to check that out. I wonder if that was in specific missions. And did the church actually need to generate revenue? Was that a source of income for the church? I'm not that obviously in today's culture, the Book of Mormon is not a source of revenue. The church owns lots of properties and whatever on earth they own in Utah that makes lots and lots of money. Um, so I can't imagine it being a source of revenue, but hey, I didn't know that at all. And I might actually check that out this week.
Okay, well, let's talk about section 29 then. So section 29, this one, it doesn't give us, or at least I'm talking my scriptures that are pre-2012 were discovered that, after 2012, there's a lot of, or not a lot, but there's a few changes. It doesn't really give us much information about where this revelation came from. It says this revelation was given some days prior to the conference beginning September 26, 1830. Now, this revelation all the way through here, I mean, it does start talking about forgiveness and how the Lord forgives, but then it talks about basically the end of the world and things that are going to happen in the future. So do you know any backstory about how this revelation came to be?
Yeah, I know a little bit. So it was at the Whitmer home. And there is six. It says here in the scriptures that it was given in the presence of six elders. Those elders were Oliver Cowdery, Thomas B. Marsh, Samuel H. Smith, and then David and John Whitmer and Peter Whitmer as well. So three Whitmers in the Whitmer home, and then we've got Samuel H. Smith, of course, the brother to the prophet. Bit of trivia for Samuel H. Smith. Not many people know he died only a month after Joseph was martyred. Not many people know that. There's a little factoid, Clive. I'll just leave that little factoid there.
Okay, perfect.
But Thomas B. Marsh as well and Oliver Cowdery. So they're all present. And they're talking to Joseph. And if you think about what's happened, as we talked about last week, Hiram Page has a seer stone, and Joseph had to sort of squash that through Oliver Cowdery. So there's a little bit of this kind of stuff infiltrating into the church, which Joseph is able to figure out. And now he's meeting with these six brethren, and they're asking him. They're talking about what's Zion, where's Zion going to be, and then Joseph gets this revelation. And what I love about this revelation is the information that we get is before I tell you how the information is given, let me ask you.
No, not trivia.
No. What is a topic we both like? Well, we both really like Seinfeld.
Okay.
So explain to me Seinfeld.
Oh, okay. I would say there's four friends that just live their life, but it's funny. I mean, it's hard to explain. It's a show about nothing. But yeah, basically four friends come together and they just get into a lot of shenanigans that ends up being quite funny.
And if I asked you to explain that story in detail, if I asked you to explain Seinfeld in detail, would you be able to just rattle it off? Would you have to think? Would you have to go back? Would you ask me what you've said? Would you maybe repeat some things? How do you think you would go?
I'm pretty sure I would just be able to rattle it off, give any in-depth type of story to any particular part of it. Yeah, definitely.
And how many times have you watched all 10 seasons?
9 seasons.
9 seasons. Okay. How many times?
I couldn't tell you. A lot. Too many. Probably way more than I should.
Right,
Hopefully I've
okay.
read the Book of Mormon more times than I've watched the whole series of Seinfeld.
Okay. Well, the reason I asked you that information is because they asked Joseph for a revelation, and Joseph literally sits there and he thinks and he tells them the revelation sentence by sentence. They write it down slow enough. He says it slow enough that they can write it down. He never asks them, "Hey, what did I just say?" He never says, "Oh, hang on, let me just correct what I've said." He literally just, here's the revelation. This sentence, they write it down. Here's another sentence, write it down. And section 29 is really quite complicated. It discusses complicated things. It's 50 verses, so it's pretty long. And Joseph is able to talk about this sentence by sentence. You've watched Seinfeld, you've watched all the seasons of Seinfeld 5 times, maybe 10 times. And so you can easily tell me about Seinfeld. Joseph Smith isn't clued on about all of these things. He's not heard it before. He gets the revelation in real time, live, and he's able to just get it out. No problem. He can get it out to those brethren without issue. And I think that that's just an unbelievable credit to the process of receiving revelation. Like, it's not, oh, hang on, guys, I think I said that wrong. Can you delete that? And can I say this instead? Because that doesn't make sense. Hang on, I've got a bit off track here. I need to pull it back in. He just talks about it, hopefully as smooth as I'm talking to you now.
Well, what I found just fascinating about this section, I mean, it's in every single color, because every single time, I want to look up something, I'll color it in different colors to mean different things. But I was thinking, this is such plain and precious, right? So they would receive this for the very first time. And to us, what's in here is plain and precious. But then, yeah, like you said, there's so much more to it. So, there's Christ will come down and he will reign again. Incredible. Great. Well, now we've learned those things. But in what capacity, in what way will everyone join the church? Like, I think I said it last week. If we were there at this time, we'd go, hold on, we've got a million more questions. I don't
Yeah.
have time to wait for the end. Explain to this me some more. So the fact that everything we're going to talk about today, the saints learned this for the very first time. The majority of it is for the very first time. Some of it is in Revelations, but the majority of it, they learned it for the very first time. And to us now, this is plain and precious. We know it, but there's so much more to the doctrine. And and you can study section 29 your whole life and just learn new bits and new bits every single day. And it's just absolutely incredible. So for Joseph just to say it and them to all write it down, I mean, I'm sure there's others in the background making notes going, okay, ask about this, ask about that, and so we're so lucky now because we've got, okay, here's the doctrine, here's what's for us to understand. And hey, if you want to know more, go and study it out yourself. But again, plain and precious. And that's what's incredible about section 29.
Well, let's start because there is some great wording here, and we'll probably go through quite a few verses tonight. But verse 1, listen to the voice of Jesus Christ, your Redeemer, the great I am, whose arm of mercy hath atoned for your sins, who will gather his people, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, even as many as will hearken to my voice and humble themselves before me and call upon me in mighty prayer. He's giving instruction about prayer. He's talking about prayer all the time. In fact, when he talks about prayer, we think about the lesson to the Nephites when the Savior visited the Nephites. What was one of his main lessons? Prayer. Always talking to them about prayer, and he would come back and they were praying. So he's he's telling them to call upon him in mighty prayer. But this descriptive wording as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings. It's clear enough for them to understand and know, okay, where is this revelation headed?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many we could read, like, Christ in verse 3 talks about how, um, I say unto you that your sin at this time, your sins are forgiven. Therefore, remember, therefore you receive these things, but remember to sin no more. And then verse 4, well, why? Well, I've chosen you. I say unto you that you are chosen out of this world to declare my gospel with the sound of rejoicing as the voice of a trump. So this is, you need to be clean. You need to be fresh because I need you to go out there and I need you. You have been chosen. I have chosen you. Imagine being that Christ saying to you, I've
Yeah.
chosen you and I need you to go out. The voice, the sound of a trump, just, loud. It doesn't matter. I remember my mission president's wife got kicked out of Walmart because she kept trying to teach everyone who was like going down the aisles, which at the time I thought was a bit strange, but now I think, well, obviously, preach as much as you can. That's what it means.
Right.
Lift up your hearts, be glad, for I am in your midst. I am always with you. As long as you're preaching my gospel, I'm always going to be with you. So there's tons of verses here about Christ. As long as you're clean and you're prepared, I will be with you. I want you to declare my gospel. Go out and do that. He talks about this so strongly. And then he starts talking about, well, what's going to happen afterwards?
I've written the word gathering here, and this is probably a question that I wanted to ask you because in verse 4, as you've rightly read out, their job is to declare the word. And we know in the next couple of sections that missionaries would be sent out. We get this famous story of Oliver talking to the Native Americans and telling them the pale faced man has translated a book. He's talking in this kind of terminology, but this is I'm thinking that this is the earliest, or perhaps some of the earliest time that we're getting this idea of the gathering of saints. The gathering has begun. That's going to be more than just that small group of people, but a I don't know how big they're thinking if this is going to be a global gathering, but there's a gathering that's kicking off.
Well, see, the gathering, that's a really interesting topic because it seems like, well, I mean, I've got a whole page of questions about Jackson County, Missouri for you about the gathering, trying to understand it a bit more. Because, every time I read about the gathering, it's always, we'll gather to this place. And either the keys are going to go back and it's only certain people that are gathered to this place. But yeah, it does talk about the gathering. A lot of the saints would have thought, well, it's where we are now, or Zion, or Utah. A lot of people even now seem to think that Utah is the gathering place, the place where we're all going to gather at the end. But it's really not. It's Jackson County, Missouri. That's where the gathering is going to take place.
Well, and but in terms of physically where we're living now, the general authorities have told us 100 times you don't need to move to America.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, yeah.
Thank
I think I've
goodness. Although shout out to our Americans, but pretty happy here in Australia.
That's right. Love it, love it, love it in America. Well, I remember when I was over there. I think I've shared the story before. When I was in California, and there was, everything was going on with the law changes over there, and Elder Uchtdorf came up, and he basically said that Zion is where you are. You don't have
Right.
to. A lot of people were actually moving to Utah to try and get away from it all, and he came, did a special conference, and he said Zion is where you are. We don't expect everyone to move to Utah. That's not what we. Zion isn't just in Utah. Zion is where you are, where the saints are. So yes, we are in Zion right now, as long as we're in one heart and one mind, and in this community of our church family. So yeah, I mean, I guess there's a lot of different types of gatherings as well. That's why it can be so confusing. We gathered here as saints, but then if we're talking about the last days, there's a gathering, and then there's when Christ comes back and reigns, there's another gathering.
Well, let's talk about the gathering in verse 7, as you were about to read out before I interrupted you.
Okay, well, yeah, it just talks about my elect in verse 7, of my elect, the elect. Bring to pass the gathering of mine elect, for mine elect hear my voice and harden not their hearts, right? And this is the important bit, verse 8. Wherefore the decree hath gone forth from the Father, that they shall be gathered in unto one place, unto the face of this land, to prepare their hearts and be prepared in all things against the day when tribulation and desolation are sent forth upon the wicked. Now, we can, if you read that, it's talking about, I mean, I guess you read it in different ways. So you can read that and talk, well, there's going to be a conference soon and we're going to get instructions from the conference. But then, again, you can read it in another way, like what the footnotes refer to the millennium a lot of the time. So this is, again, a different type of gathering that it could be talking about. It could be talking about when Christ were to come back, we'll all gather to Jackson County. And we well again, it's not we'll all gather, but we'll return our keys to our fathers and to our heads and all that sort of stuff. So, but my question to you is, what do we have? So we need a place at Jackson County. There is a specific place ordained for it, that when Christ comes back, that's where we can go. Well, my question to you is, what do we have? Where is it? And what else do we need for the end, basically, to say, okay, now Christ can come?
There's so many things. I mean, there's lots of spiritual and physical things. Of course, in Jackson County, there's 3 churches who own properties there. There's us, there's the RLDS, now Community of Christ, and then there's another church there called the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or Latter Day. Church of Temple Lot, I think, is their name. So they're very, very similar to us in name, but they're capital D for Latter Day, and we're small d for Latter Day.
Right.
But they're Church of the Temple Lot, and they're a splinter group from the early after Joseph died, and there's 4 million restoration churches, but they're one of them, and I think they took our church to court in the early days to get a piece of this land. But there's that, of course. There's the church to be built on that block, which we don't own, so that can't happen yet. But there's also, of course, a million signs of the times. But in Jackson County specifically, yeah, we're one of a few custodians of this particular piece of land.
Yeah, I feel like we don't talk about it enough. Like, there's always Utah and Salt Lake City, and there's so much going on there. But there's Jackson County. It's the place where we need to be. So the RLDS, when we acquired a lot of stuff off them, we didn't acquire that piece of land. Then they still own that.
No, at some stage we will take custody of that whole thing, but
Yeah.
there's no indication for that to happen yet. But I think as well the gathering, Clive, in our current day is our gathering on Sundays, and our gathering as a people on a Sunday to one place, and that's to to our church buildings. Um, it obviously went from 3 hours to 2 hours, and I don't see. I've had conversation with people over time of will it ever go from 2 hours to 1 hour? Probably not, because it is a gathering and we are to gather together. That's a commandment for us as a people. So this is always going to be a requirement for us. And I think most people enjoy it as well.
Well, exactly, and that's why it's so much like, okay, well, here's the part of the doctrine that we might need to understand right now. It's like when Christ talked in parables. You know, he said to his apostles, "Well, there's some for some to understand, and others for others to understand." So, no one's wrong. It's just how you feel at the time, or the things that you want to know. So, well, let's move on then. I just want to jump down to verse 11. So we're talking about the millennium now. So Christ will say, "For I will reveal myself from heaven with power and great glory, with all the hosts thereof, and dwell in righteousness with men on earth 1,000 years, and the wicked shall not stand." So, look, like I said before, the early saints are now learning a lot of this stuff. So, okay, well, Christ is going to come down. He's not going to come down alone. He's going to come down with the hosts of heaven, who later will learn are the apostles. He'll come down with his apostles, and he'll reign on the earth for 1,000 years. So what an incredible thing to just learn all of a sudden out of nowhere that this is actual fact and this is all going to come about. So uh, Bruce R. McConkie talks about this, and he says that first he'll visit in secret to select members of the church. My guess, I mean, this is all going to be my guesses, but you'd think it'd be like the prophet and the apostles would be the first ones he visits, right? It's not going to be, the guy next door who's goes occasionally. It's not going to be like that. He's going to visit those elect and those that he's chosen. So,
Yeah.
and then
So not
Charles,
dinner at your house.
well, he's definitely invited if he wants to come for sure. Um, then Charles W. Penrose talked about this, and he said after he's visited the Latter-day Saints, he'll go and visit the nearly vanquished sons of Judah, and then he'll go and visit the Jews and declare himself that Christ that they put to death. So there's a few steps before he just doesn't come down and go, okay, here I am. There's a lot of different religions that believe other things as well. That Christ will come down, and it's basically the righteous will be lifted up off the earth, and the wicked will be burned, and then we'll all go back down. They call it the rapture. Then there's also those that believe that we'll just disappear into heaven, that the good people. So there's a lot of, and this is what the saints would have learned as well from all the different religions. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. Now again, this new doctrine from Joseph to go, well, actually, this is how it's all going to work. So in verse 12 it says, "Again, verily, verily, I say unto you, and it hath gone forth into a firm decree by the will of the Father, that mine apostles, the 12, which were with me in the ministry at Jerusalem, shall stand at my right hand at the day of my coming in a pillar of fire, being clothed with robes of righteousness, with crowns upon their heads, in glory, even as I am, to judge the whole house of Israel, even as many as have loved me and kept my commandments and none else." So again, it's now going, okay, well, Christ is going to come down. He's going to bring his chosen apostles. His apostles at the time, they weren't the best of what he could find. These were men that have been chosen since before the world began to be Christ's apostles, because now they're going to come down with Christ in the millennium and help judge the world.
And then the doctrine of 13, "For a trump shall sound both long and loud, even as upon Mount Sinai, and all the earth shall quake, and they shall come forth. Yea," so it's who shall come forth? "Yea, even the dead which died in me," so in me being believing in me, "to receive a crown of righteousness and to be clothed upon, even as I am, to be with me, that we may be as one." So these people who are blessed to come forward in the morning of the resurrection, right? This is these people.
This is exactly these people. And imagine being resurrected. Oh, I made it. So I'm like, this is good for me. But yeah, I mean, when people die and we consecrate graves, we talk about this. We talk about to them to be resurrected in the morning of the resurrection. When Christ comes again, he will resurrect, just like when he was here before the first time and he was resurrected, he resurrected many, many people. And again, it's going to happen. And it's the righteous ones. And I think it's interesting where it says, even as loud and long, even as upon Mount Sinai. You remember the story of Moses when he went upon Mount Sinai, and it was an incredible loud noise that the people heard coming off the mountain. And that's exactly what we're going to hear now. And just like the people in Moses' time, when even though they heard this incredible roar from off the mountain, they were still wicked down the bottom. And even when Christ comes again, I'm not saying there's going to be wicked people, but there's still going to be, it's not like everyone's going to be just converted to Latter-day Saints then. When Christ comes down, they're not going to go, okay, the Mormons were right. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be,
Yeah.
a lot of people are going to see Christ and know who Christ is and still believe in their own doctrine.
Yeah, Clive, I've written the next on in my scriptures here that the next 5 or 6 verses are very poetic or more spiritually speaking or symbolically speaking is probably the best word.
Yeah.
And so I just want to take you through a couple of these things which I've highlighted here. So verse 14, but behold, I say unto you that before this great day shall come the sun, shall come the sun shall be darkened, and the moon shall be turned into blood, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and there shall be greater signs in heaven and in the earth beneath. This to me is more spiritually, there'll be no light. There'll be no light left on the earth. There'll be very little good. The earth will be so wicked that it will be very hard to get light. The light will be polluted. The light will be hard to find, is how I'm reading this. And then, and so what will that cause? Well, there shall be weeping and wailing amongst the hosts of men. Um, and in 16, and there shall be great hailstorms sent forth to destroy the crops of the earth. These spiritual things will be happening to people. It will be hard for people to function. And verse 17, and it shall come to pass, because of the wickedness of the world, that I will take vengeance upon the wicked, for they will not repent. For the cup of mine indignation is full. For behold, my blood shall not cleanse them if they hear me not. And then this part here about them, about the wicked being spiritually dead. Wherefore I, the Lord God, will send forth flies upon the face of the earth, which shall take hold of the inhabitants thereof, and shall eat their flesh, and shall cause maggots to come in upon them. This idea that these people will be dead. What happens when you're dead? These creatures decompose your body, and these people will be so spiritually dead that there'll be nothing left of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Crazy. You know what I find interesting, right? It's it's what you just read happens just before what I just read, but it's written afterwards. Do you
Right.
think it's sort of like when Christ comes, it's going to be an absolute incredible experience, but here's what'll happen if you're bad. So it's almost like, oh, that's amazing. I can't wait for that. And then there's sort of like this warning that you just read. Well, you have to be absolutely clean spiritually and physically and be prepared for Christ. Because yes, this all sounds great, but here's the warning.
Yeah, hey, I've never thought of it like that, but I like your reasoning. I like the idea that here's what we can gain, and if you don't want a part of that, here's the other side, I guess.
We'll start talking about things that we've talked about in the Book of Mormon in verse 21. And the great and abominable church, which is the whore of all the earth, shall be cast down by devouring fire, according as it is spoken by the mouth of Ezekiel the prophet, who spake of these things. I think we talked about who that great and abominable church is. It's those that are basically,
Hold on. That are not with us, or that are totally have no light.
yeah, that's right. That go out of their way to try and destroy the church of God. That's who they are. It's not one particular religion. It's those that specifically say, well, my job is to take this church of God and try and destroy it. And that is the great and abominable church. And that who is going to be consumed by fire, that's spoken of by the prophets of old, the prophets of today, and everyone in between. So I,
I just wanted to touch on before we move off on that a little bit. This descriptive word here, which is the whore of all the earth. And I was thinking about why this descriptive word is used, and it's used so often. And I guess, when you're in the church and you kind of read that out and you just kind of skip through it and try to move on because it's a bit not ideal, I guess. but it's this idea of taking money. It's this idea of pleasuring. It's this representation of everything that isn't holy. Did I explain that well enough? I mean, that's what I'm thinking in my head. There's how bad is it? Well, it's so bad that it's equal to one of the greatest sins, which is chastity issues, and taking money in for pleasure. That's literally how bad this whole thing is. It's one of the worst sins.
I think you explained it so well because as you were saying it, I was thinking, well, in our church, perfecting the saints, bring people with you, preach the gospel. It's not church is there just for you and you alone, and you go about doing exactly what you want to do, and you'll be saved. It's we're there to preach the gospel, to help our brothers. The church has just incredible charities that go out and they share. And so when you were saying that, I was thinking, well, yeah, because we're all about each other, and the priesthood is there for not for you, but so you can bless somebody else. So yeah, it's
Right.
not for you alone, and that's exactly what you were saying. So so this goes back to what I was talking about earlier in verse 22. And again, verily, verily, I say unto you, that when the 1,000 years are ended, and men again begin to deny their God, then will I spare the earth, but for a little season. So it doesn't talk about it there, but what's happening is after the 1,000 years, Satan will be loosed again. But even before that, there's still men that would have become wicked. Oh, Christ's on the earth. Oh, it's been 1,000 years now. You know what? I'm used to it. I want to go back to doing my own ways. Even though Christ is here, it seems so far fetched, but it's true. If your parents are with you and you're trying to do good and you're trying to do it, but they just never leave, eventually you'll just go back to the um, mammon, the person you were before. You're not going to try and just be perfect all the time. This person isn't going away. And so, again, there's those that are going to deny Christ. And then this is the whole, we're not going to get into it now, but the battle of Gog and Magog. This is the end, the final battle before judgment, which can't wait to get into. We'll talk about Revelation, but we'll get into that. And then verse 23, there'll be a new earth. So the earth will go from this presence that it's in now, and it will become this terrestrial state, this incredible sphere of what it is. The Jehovah's Witnesses, they have a really interesting concept of that earth becomes heaven. And I guess in a way, for us, we do believe that, but theirs is more of the heaven, like this is the heaven, and the earth will be cleansed. It's a really beautiful way to think about it, and I guess in a sense we believe that as well. But we're not going to get into that right now. We don't have enough time. But
Yeah.
Michael will come and sound his trumpet, and the rest of the dead will be raised. The celestial people will be raised in the last days. Talks about that in 26. Then it just touches on the absolute wicked people, the sons of perdition that will go to outer darkness in 29. Behold, I say unto you, never at any time have I declared from mine own mouth that they should return. For where I am, they cannot come, for they have no power. So just touches on that just to say, hey, it's not just heaven and hell. There's so much in between, but hey, there is absolute wicked people out there. Then, which in Genesis, it talks about the creation, and then it talks about the creation again. And for a lot of people, it's like, well, for a lot of religions that I've studied, it's God's talking about the creation, and then he's emphasizing the creation a bit more. But it tells us in verse 33 here that God created things spiritually first, and then he created things temporally. So again, he's gone back a bit with, well, we've talked about the end now. Well, even before that, I created things spiritually, then I created things temporally. And again, this is a plain and precious thing that we know, but for the early saints to learn this, what an incredible thing. Then I'm just going to skip a little bit around. There's so much here. But jump in when you want to, Daniel. But in verse 34, I thought this was really, really interesting. He says, wherefore, verily I say unto you, that all things unto me are spiritual, and not at any time have I given unto you a law which was temporal, neither any man nor the children of men, neither Adam your father whom I created. Every single commandment we have been given is for our spiritual benefit. So there's nothing that God's gone, like God doesn't come down and go, okay, don't speed. But we
Right.
know that we should still follow the laws of the land, because us following the laws of the land, we become, I guess, we more controlling of ourselves, and that would help our spiritual well-being. But God doesn't come down and say, okay, stop stealing pencils from work, you know, just all these temporal things. But
If your boss is watching this, you don't steal pencils from work.
like, we know the law. We know that,
Right.
even though, I
You don't
joke
have to
around
be
about it.
commanded in all things.
Exactly. So, even though I joke around that, stealing pens is bad, it isn't bad, but it really is, obeying the laws of the land. This is the important thing, because every commandment, and you read any of the scriptures, any commandment that God has given us, it is for our spiritual well-being. It is to prepare us for the second coming. And like you said, yeah, God's not going to come down and go, okay, here's an actual list of every single thing I need you to tick off, whether it be spiritual or temporal. I need you to tick them all off. It's not that way. We've been given
And
specific
we learn
commandments
that
for a reason.
from our from the more modern interpretations of keeping the Sabbath day holy. I guess when we were growing up, it was a tick list of here's 10 things you can't do, and here's 10 things you can do, and never do the things you can't do ever. And now it's more, it's far different to that idea.
I mean, then he talks about that in verse 35. Um, Behold, I give unto him that he should be an agent unto himself. That's not saying that man is just going to allow to do whatever they want, because God's just said, you know what, you're an agent, go do whatever you want. It's, I've given you these specific things. It's up to you now. I can't sit there holding your hand. It's up to you to understand the things that I've asked you to do and go ahead with it. It's an interesting concept, because you look at the opposite side and what Satan wants to do. Well, Satan does want to be with you all the time, to whisper bad things to you. But God trusts us and knows that if we love him, we will keep his commandments.
Yeah. What's it?
And I mean, and this, which is a perfect segue into verse 34. What is God's power? Why is God so powerful? And it came to pass that
Verse
Adam,
34?
36. And it came to pass that Adam, being tempted of the devil, for behold, the devil was before Adam, and he rebelled against me, saying, give me thine honor, which is my power. And also a third part of the host of heaven turned away from me because of their agency. So what is God's power? Well, it's his honor. If we honor and we love God, then he is our father. He is the one that we will listen to. Miracles are just elements that honor God and will do the things that he asks, because he is such an honorable person. God will never lead us down the wrong path, and that's up to us to go, well, I trust God. And you might say, well, whatever the prophet just said, I don't think that's right. And I think, let's use the 2 hour thing, for example. You mentioned at the beginning, church 3 hours. I absolutely loved it. I didn't like it when it went down to 2 hours, because I loved all the classes they were able to go to. But that's not for me to go, well, the prophet's wrong this time. I've just got to trust that whatever is said is absolutely correct. And I will love God for that, and I will honor him, and his power will continue on.
More time for afternoon naps.
I'll just mention one more thing, Daniel, if I may. And this, again, this has been explained in the Book of Mormon, but it's such an important thing that it's explained again and again. The early saints, this will be new to them, because so many churches get this wrong. Verse 47, verse 46 and 47. Behold, I say unto you that little children are redeemed from the foundation of the world through mine only begotten. Wherefore they cannot sin, for power is not given unto Satan to tempt little children, until they begin to become accountable before me. What a sad situation for other religions to not understand that, and to think that children that die in their sins, as they say, in their sins before they're old enough, they're doomed. And yeah, it's explained in the Book of Mormon, and it's reiterated in the Doctrine and Covenants, that God is all loving. And that's what's so important about it.
Well, I think that's a great ending. And I think maybe let's leave it there. Um, I, your passion and love of Doctrine and Covenants 29 is so great. And what a great episode we've been to talk about today. And we're grateful for everyone who tunes in to us and likes and subscribes to us on all our different platforms. Catch us on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. We will see you next week for verses that I don't know, Clive. It's 30. and I don't know where it goes to.
The
I haven't checked.
36.
To 36.
Yeah.
So we will catch you then. Thank you. See you next week.